Our first distinguished interviewee is Joseph Maharsky. Mr. Maharsky's military service in Vietnam included RD-2 United States Navy Black Berets Vietnam, forward machine gunner PCF-78 Da Nang 1968, forward machine gunner PCF-94 An Thoi 1969, USS Brister Destroyer Escort Number 327 Vietnam 1967, Operation Market Time, Operation Sea Lords, and Operation Phoenix. Our next distinguished interviewee is John Morris. Mr. Morris's military service in Vietnam included working in radio communications. We hope you enjoy the following candid conversations on Agent Orange and the effects on Vietnam veterans. While you were serving, were you told about the use of the herbicide mixture containing dioxin and if there were any dangers if in contact?
I had absolutely no clue about that till probably sometime in the mid or late 70s.
Is that when you became aware of the dangers of the Agent Orange? Is in the 70s?
Yeah, I think I became more aware when I started to suffer from it, but yes. I had no clue while I was there. I mean, I saw the jungle destroyed and whatnot in different places that we went. They were in the process, but my mind did not process all of that and what it was for, because basically I had just numbed out, and that's your coping mechanism with death, is to get numb.
So just to kind of backtrack a moment, when was the first time that you heard the term Agent Orange?
Well, it probably had to be in the 70s. And I'm sure it was from a news show. And they talked about, it was at that time, it was a rumor that the spraying they did to kill the foliage in Vietnam was harmful to human beings, because up to that point, they told us there's nothing to worry about. This stuff is not harmful. You can't get sick from it. They lied, and guys were getting sick and dying. So they connected it to the Agent Orange thing. I don't know when I would have gotten hit by it, but again, it was my turn.
Okay. Now, were there ever conversations like this happening while you were actively deployed in Vietnam?
The only conversation they had, and it wasn't called Agent Orange at that time, it was just simply called, they're going to spray today, which meant, if you don't want to get hit by it, then don't be in the area. And again, they told us it's not harmful. If you smell it, it won't make you sick. And they would come in and spray. Well, if I'm in the field, let's say I went to, I was going to say, what is it again? Ben Look. And they wanted to get rid of some of the foliage there. They would spray there, and they would let us know. It didn't have a name like Agent Orange at that time, so we didn't know.
And when did you become aware of your health issues relating to Agent Orange?
Probably, I would say in 2014, when I had the first stent put in my heart, and I take 10% of the money that I get from the VA in compensation, and I pay for my own private health insurance, because I don't trust the VA as far as I can throw them. I'm entitled to free health care, but only from the VA. And you'll love this. My wife can go to any hospital or doctor and the VA pays for it. I can't. Tell me what's the matter with that.
And that's because you're 100%.
And that's, I'm 100% disabled, so the VA will pay for my health care, but I cannot go to a private hospital and have them pay for it. Only my wife, and they'll pay for it.
And
Didn't you have to fight for your 100% as well?
Oh, yeah, I've worked the VA for 4 years.
Yeah.
And when I came home in 1970, the standard treatment, or in 69, the standard treatment for what we call post-traumatic stress disorder now was the VA give you what's called a gorilla biscuit. You can look that up. It's enough Thorazine to knock down a cow and chain you to a bed, teach you basket weaving. I'm not making that up. And I opted out of that program. And then in the 1980s, I hooked up with Dr. John Wilson, who was a father of PTSD, the one that actually coined the phrase PTSD. We became personal friends. He went out of town to Australia on a sabbatical. So he hooked me up with another counselor at the VA who took a liking to me, invited me and my wife and my best friend to his home for dinner. His 7-year-old daughter and his wife were there. He excused himself from the table, came back with a loaded pistol, put it in his mouth and said, "You think I should do it?" So you wonder why I maybe didn't go to the VA for a while. But
that was your therapist.
yeah, that was my therapist from the VA. Put a loaded gun in his mouth, said, "You think I should do it?" You can't make this stuff up, guys.
Now, so just kind of to connect everything together, you had these issues when you're in Vietnam. You may have been exposed to Agent Orange. You're now home. Did you ever seek out the VA?
A period of time passed after I was out of the service before I realized that every Vietnam veteran should go to the VA and be tested because there was this thing with the Agent Orange. So I went to the VA, the one in Coatesville, and I got examined by a doctor and basically was told there was nothing wrong with you. Why do you think there's anything wrong with you? And I said, I'm doing what they told me to do. They said I should get examined because you're doing a study on us. And he said, well, don't think you're going to get anything out of it because that's not going to happen. Okay, you play your game, I'll play mine.
Mike's not working right, but one of them that I got from Agent Orange, which was confirmed by the VA, was prostate cancer. Now they automatically rate you at 100% disabled for prostate cancer. But you'll love this. I had 9 weeks of radiation, which took it away. So they said, well, you don't have cancer anymore, so you're not entitled to any benefits from that. I never mentioned the side effects. There's quite a few of them too, which I won't talk about to the radiation. But once you have the cancer in remission, they take away any benefit they were giving you.
No. And it's still, as Dr. Berman was saying, it's still a possibility to be in your system and
Oh, yeah.
come back.
Number 5, do you suffer from any health issues due to contact with Agent Orange?
Yes, I have severe neuropathy, which I'm sitting here right now in a lot of pain. And the VA does not recognize, at least as of now, neuropathy is related to Agent Orange unless you get it in the first 2 years of the time you returned. Now, they didn't take into account possibly that dioxin has a 27-year half-life. And for those of you that don't know what that means, is an example, if I had 100 parts per million of dioxin in my body, in 27 years, I'm still going to have 50 parts per million. In another 27 years, I'll have 25 parts per million, and so on. So dioxin is not something that ever leaves your body in a person's lifetime. I also have ischemic heart disease. I've had 3 stents put in my heart and the cancer, all from Agent Orange. I would just like to add, Sue, that I have 3 sons. One of them was born with temporal lobe epilepsy. One was born with no enamel on his teeth. And I kind of have a unique control group as far as the effects of Agent Orange on me, and the fact that I'm an identical twin. My brother did not serve in Vietnam, and he did not get anything that I did.
So then I forgot about it. You know, it's just something that happened. It's done. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with diabetes that I realized, wait a minute, diabetes is a presumed ailment from Agent Orange poisoning. I'm going to go back to the VA and see what they have to say about that. Well, this time around, it couldn't have been any different. They were anxious to help me. They did what they could do. They're very accommodating and warm to me. And that started my work with the VA.
Now, is there anything else that you did for Agent Orange? You know, like were there any projects that you worked on to like gain exposure and kind of tell people what was going on with Agent Orange?
A few years back, Dr. Kodowski and I, along with some other people, I won't take any more credit than I deserve, put together a, he had a term for it.
I was at the town hall.
Town hall, that was it. They had a town hall meeting at Westchester University. And we brought in some of the very best speakers on the subject of Agent Orange. And we had a great day.
Now,
And-
since you've kind of, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, since you've kind of seen both sides of it, you had that negative experience in the beginning with the VA, and now you're actually able to talk about Agent Orange. It's becoming more of a talking point. Have you spoken to other veterans about this? Has there been a shift in the way that people view it?
Well, back then, and even now, today, there's still a lot of talk about, you know, you got to get to the VA, you got to get tested, you got to get your name on the ranks of people who have been affected by this, the dioxin poisoning from the Agent Orange. That's still an issue. It takes different people different amounts of time to go from relatively healthy to, I think there's something wrong with me. So we like to get them looked at while they're still in that stage where they're in fair shape. So there's a comparison, you know, a benchmark for when they get worse. So yeah, we do that quite a bit.
So why do you think it is important to educate others about Agent Orange?
I would think that Larian could answer that question better than me, if that's okay.
But talk
Are
about
you-
this.
Well, I think it's important for several reasons. One is it is our history. Number one. Number two, I think it's important that citizens understand that sometimes the truth isn't as direct and linear as we would hope, but the most important to me is that the dioxin Agent Orange saga is far from over. You know, dioxin's, as Joe mentioned, dioxin's destructive life lingers. You know, so for example, again, just take a look at what's going on in the Passaic River in northern New Jersey. 50 years after Agent Orange was manufactured, but chemicals that were drained from factory floors into the waterway became a toxic mud that remains it's a dioxin cleanup problem. More than 100 companies are currently involved in a legal battle who should pay it. Or how about Guam? It's another example. Again, great topic for a future historian. You know, Guam was the site during the war of an immense buildup of air power, okay? At the height of all of our bombing operations, 3/4 of all the B-52 aircraft available in Southeast Asia were based in Guam. And the government always denied that there was any Agent Orange in Guam. Well, just 2 years ago, through Freedom of Information suits by advocacy groups, and people who served in Guam but never went to Vietnam were developing cancers. And for years, service members were reporting spraying. They had seen it in Guam, that it was being used to, the military grade stuff was being used to clean up fields and lawns and vegetation areas. And a group known as the Veterans Legal Services Clinic at Yale, again, and the National Veterans Legal Services Program. It's a great topic to look into. Found that between 1962 and 1975, dioxin was indeed stored in Guam, and declassified documents showed that Guam was basically a gateway for spraying, mishandling, and disposal. Like a lot of times, the empty canisters were taken from Vietnam and brought to Guam, and then they were left in Guam and stored there. These canisters were toxic, really, 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 really toxic. Okinawa is another area, same story. Take a look at what happened with the disposal of dioxin in Okinawa, and what recent FOIA, Freedom of Information suits show about the high concentration of dioxin in that area. So the dioxin issue is a lingering one today, and veterans are still fighting. So it's not just in Vietnam, it's Guam, it's all these other areas as well. So I think it's really important to look into that. So far, they found that 200 veterans were poisoned by Agent Orange while serving in Okinawa. And there's no doubt that this is part of congressional testimony. Multiple cancers, Parkinson's, peripheral neuropathy. These are illnesses that are covered by the Veterans Affairs, Department of Veterans Affairs, for Americans who were exposed to defoliants in Vietnam, Thailand, and by the way, Korea and the DMZ, where the stuff was, by the way, we'd have time to discuss it, but you know, where did this Agent Orange come from? Where was it tested? Well, the Korea, the demilitarized zone, and then early in Vietnam. Okay, that's why it's important. That's why it's important.
I would just